Hello, good people, and welcome back to Unit 4 on the legislative branch. So in our third lesson for this particular unit, we're going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. So if you looked at your intro page and you were like, what the heck is HABBAL? All right, it's how a bill becomes a law, just abbreviated. All right, so let's talk about how Congress actually is supposed to do their job. So how a bill goes from an idea to being signed into existence and people enforcing it. But first, let's get to some vocab. All right, so when we talk about an act, a law, and legislation, they are the exact same thing. So if you hop over into the margin for your note sheet, they all mean a law, okay, which is a legal binding rule. So if you break whatever rule this is, there can be punishments that your government has the power and authority to enact on you because you agreed in the social contract to uphold your end of the law. And if you don't, terrible things, okay? So now a bill, which we're talking about mostly today, is an idea for a law. It's not a legal rule yet because it has to go through the whole legal process and the president has got to sign it. Or if it's a state bill, the governor has to sign it. So before it becomes legit, it is called a bill. All right, so next is a statute. This is typically referring to a state law. So if someone says like state statute, blah, 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 says that you can't speed or whatever. Cool, great, fantastic. People also have heard, you have probably heard the word statutory with regards to rape as well, because typically different states and different counties can define sexual assault differently. So there's that. So if you hear like statutory law, it is literally just state laws, okay? An ordinance usually refers to a local law. So for example, like a noise ordinance. If specific communities don't want you to have amplified sound after a certain amount of time, that is a local ordinance. Like people in Raleigh are not worried about whether or not Joe Dirt is out here playing his loud music out and about in Winterville at 11 o'clock at night. They don't care about that. So ordinances are usually specifically for local laws and local establishments. This last one I'm going to talk about is a joint resolution. This is passed by both the House and the Senate. That's why it's called joint, because both houses contribute to it. All right, so those are worked on by both houses and passed by both houses. And I'll pop this I'm Just a Bill into a little side bowl because it's just so cute. I hope you enjoyed I'm Just a Bill just as much as I do. I just love it so much, okay? So, an idea for a law over here. Pause. Let me back up a little bit. Skirt, skirt, skirt. All right, so if you look at your note sheet, this is how it looks. You got a bunch of boxes, okay? In each box, all right, we're going to start off at the top of it. We're going to go down the left side, down the right side, and then we're going to go down the middle and hit this little box in the corner. Okay, I'm going to say it one more time. So we're going to start up here at the top in the middle. You need to put the title and the bullets in the box. All right, if you need to write small, write small. I'm sorry, big handwriting people, this is not a day for you. Okay, so we start in the center. We go down the left side for all three of these. We're going to go down the right side and then back down the middle. Okay. All right, let's get into it. All right, so first of all, if we have an idea for a law, all right, this can come from multiple people. People who make laws are not the only people who are allowed to think about laws. You can do that as a constituent because you are represented in your government. Even if you can't vote, you can still have a law that is passed from your idea. It is possible, okay? It's kind of difficult, but it's possible. All right, so constituents can bring up ideas for laws. The reason that Colorado legalized weed came from one person. It came from a guy. It did not come from anybody who represented anybody else in government. It came from just one regular person, okay? Interest groups can come up with ideas for a law. So, for example, part of the reason that the federal drinking age has been raised from 18 to 21, or part of the reason that states no longer get to choose their drinking age, is because of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, who are an interest group, which we talked about in Unit 3. All right, representatives from both the House or the Senate can come up with ideas for laws, or the president themselves can come up with ideas for laws, okay? This is an option as well. Why do you think Obamacare is called Obamacare? Think about it real hard, okay? All right, so again, we're going down the left side. All right, so after an idea is present for a law, it gets introduced into the House. So let's say we write down a bill, okay? I don't know. Something that y'all feel strongly about. School days. All right, let's say, for example, we are going to have a 4-day school week, and we're only going to go to school Monday through Thursday. Friday, you can wild out and do what you want, okay? So let's say that, for example, we are going to have this bill. I'm going to write it down, okay? Make sure you're writing down an example. So let's say for an example, we'll just put out in the margin HOR 501 school week, okay, school week. So for this introduction, the House of Representatives is the first set of people to see this. However, we know, because we're smart, there are 435 people in the House. It makes 0 sense for all 435 of those homies to look at this bill at the same time. That is dumb. Break it into small groups, okay? You put it into the hopper, which is this little box right over here where the speaker stands, and it's given a name. Not like, this is named James. Like, that's not how that works. They give it a number, all right? So it's the title of it is HOR, whatever number bill this is. They start at 1 every year and work their way forward. So this one, for example, is HOR 501. Let's put school week beside that, okay? So now that we've introduced it, they literally just read it, introducing HOR 501, the school week bill, and like drop the gavel, like hit the little desk and move along. All right, so now we study this in a small group, and we call this a committee, okay? It makes more sense for us to study it in a small squad so that we aren't wasting 435 people's times on a little bill. We could get just a small amount of people to work on it, then they present it to everybody else, because the logic is that everybody in the House of Representatives trusts each other to work hard on every bill that is in front of them, okay? Now, a committee has 5 options. If they're like, I don't really know enough about school weeks, let's ask some teachers, let's ask some parents, let's ask some children, okay? Let's ask some principals, some superintendents. Let's ask people who are involved in this. They can hold a hearing, and they can bring people in front of them to testify about what this bill would look like, why we should have it, why we should not have it. They try to take everybody's opinion into account. Okay, so they hold a hearing. That could be an option. They could keep the bill just like it is. Let's say we went ahead and wrote it and said we would like a 4-day school week, Monday through Thursday only. Thank you. Next. All right. They could keep the bill just like it is. They could change it and be like, you'll do a 4-day school week. However, you have to go to school from 9 to 4. All right. They can change it if they want to. They can add or subtract things from your original version of the bill. They could kill it, stone dead, okay, and be like, nope. This ain't getting any further. This is a terrible bill. Goodbye. All right. And nothing ever happens. That idea just like poof, disappears. All right. And they literally throw it away. Okay. Or they could do this thing called a pigeonhole. All right. So out to the side of pigeonhole, I want you to put in parentheses, ignore. Ignore. Okay. Make sure you have that. Pigeonhole means to ignore a bill. All right. This particular phrase comes from actual pigeonholes when they were still carrier pigeons before we had like telegraphs and telephones and stuff. People in Congress still had to communicate with people who were in their offices. And instead of having somebody like run back and forth all day between buildings or like ride their horse back and forth between buildings, they would just send carrier pigeons back and forth. And so each particular congressperson in both the House and the Senate literally had a hole in the side of the building for their particular pigeon, okay? And then people were petty, which there are petty people in all parts of history. They would take bills they didn't like and just like stick them into a pigeonhole, and no one would ever know that it had disappeared. So the bill dies. Nothing ever happens to it, okay? So that's an option. Let's say, for example, our 4-day work week, our 4-day school week bill passes, and the committee's like, yes, we like this, okay? Typically, a committee is like 9 to 15 people. Sometimes it can be a little bigger. But let's say, for example, it's a 15-person committee, and 12 of them are like, yes, we like this bill. All right, now where does it go? Well, it's in the House of Representatives, and only a small squad has seen them. Now we have to push it out to the big floor, okay, and let everybody see it. All right, so just put a little side note over here on your margin also. You get put on committees as a representative based on how long you have been there, and this is called seniority. This is not age, okay? Just because you have been in Congress just because you're old does not mean you have been in Congress for very long, okay? You could be 65, and this could be your first year in Congress, and somebody else could be 35, and it's been their 5th year in Congress. Who knows? Or at least in the House. So this is who has been in Congress the longest. All right, so now, since only the small squad has seen it, we need to let the entirety of the House of Representatives see this, okay? So everybody debates and everybody votes according to the House Rules Committee's terms. There is literally a committee to make rules about the House of Representatives and how they function, because if not everybody is following the same set of rules, terrible things could occur, okay? We need to make sure that our representatives are all following the same rules. If they're all trying to make laws that impact 350 million people, we need to make sure that they're legit, okay? So let's say, for example, that it passes now. So out of the 435 people in the House, let's say 200 of them oh, that's not enough. 250 of them are like, yes, we like this bill. All right. The House has seen it, but the Senate has not, okay? And it's a little side note. If you don't vote, this is called abstaining from answering yay or nay. Don't abstain. What is the point of you sitting up there being a representative if you don't vote, okay? What the heck? All right, so now we kick it over to the Senate, and the Senate has to look at this bill, all right? And if you're like, wait, the whole thing starts over? Yes, the entire thing starts over from the top. Now, if you are smart and you really want to get your law passed, you need to get yourself a friend in the Senate. Maybe it's the same person who represents your state. Maybe it's somebody different. I don't know. Find yourself a work best friend over in the Senate if you're in the House and be like, yo, I need you to pass this bill. Can you do it? Can you be the person that they come to and are like, hey, tell me about this bill, and you can talk to them. And they'll be like, yeah, fam, I can do that. All right. So now our little HOR 501 is going to hop over to the Senate, and now it's Senate Bill 113. It's the same exact bill that we had in the House, but now we hop over to the Senate and give our Senate friend this bill, okay? So we pass it off. All right, so I got to plug my computer in. All right, so this bill needs a sponsor, and it's given another name. And now, again, we don't let every single person in the Senate see this at once. That's crazy. There's 100 of them. They only have so many hours in the day. So we have to kick it to a small squad called a committee, and they have you can go ahead and just write same 5 options. Same 5 options, okay? They can hold a hearing. Why they would hold a hearing after y'all already held a hearing in the House, I don't know, but I mean, do you? All right, they could keep the bill as is. They could change it again, kill it, all that work in the House just for them to kill it, or they could pigeonhole it again, all right? So that means to ignore, all right? And then here's usually what a committee hearing looks like. So here they are hanging out. People sit in front of them at little desks and testify to them. They have little nameplates so that when you address them, you can say what their name is. You know who they represent. All right. So then we have to let the Senate floor look at it. So all 100 of the Senate members or whoever is at work that day, they all have to look at it. Okay, so now that you've done a small study, small squad in your committee, now you kick it out and let the whole Senate look at it. All right, so our little 4-day school week bill, let's say, for example, it is passed in the House of Representatives and they make no changes. And then the Senate is like, actually, pause. Let's rewind. Let's say that we have HOR 501, all right, and it says 4-day school week. I'm writing this down. You should be writing this down too. And then the House said you have to go to school from 9 to 4. But then the Senate is like, nope, you can only have to go to school from 10 to 4. That's the difference. And you have got to make sure that later on you work out your differences between the House and the Senate. We'll get to that in a second. So one special thing you can do in the Senate that you cannot do in the House is this cool thing called a filibuster. You literally talk a bill to death. So let's say, for example, we have a person who, like we said, we had to have a sponsor in the United States Senate. We had to have a friend who was like, yes, I like this bill. I'll be the point person for your bill. All right. The sponsor is going to sit on the floor of the Senate while people are debating about this bill until you vote on it to see that it will pass, because that's your bill. You need to sit in there the whole time. But for example, let's say that somebody really hates this bill. They don't want a 4-day school week. They're like, no, the children should go to school 5 days a week. Okay. And they're just like really hanging on to it and just can't get over it. They might decide to get up there and talk a bill to death. You can literally say anything you want to as long as you don't curse or have your phone out. But you cannot sit down when you filibuster, and you cannot stop talking for longer than 10 seconds, or they're going to think that you're finished and you can go ahead and vote. So if you want to be petty, you can literally try and talk a bill to death. This is very rare, but it does happen. Okay. If you want to shut this person up, you can end this with a 2/3 vote. Okay. I'll pop that over in the side on the plate posit. All right, and that has been part 1.